welcome to its mental podcast again. Tonight is a little bit special. As some of you may know, I'm organizing this Berlin Mental Health Festival, and today is the last day of the festival. So I decided to do a live podcast recording to talk about my mental health journey to put on the festival together. And in order to do a special about me, I need another interviewer. So I have Melanie here. How to pronounce your name?
Melanie, or
Melanie.
Mel.
Yeah. What do you do?
What do I do? I'm a trained journalist, also an event manager, a writer, working on an animated series now, and working on a few other projects. It's a broad spectrum.
Cool. That's so cool. So how did you find this project? What's your connection with this Berlin Mental Health Festival?
So I came to the Berlin Mental Health Festival through our mutual friend Olivia. Actually, it was about 2 months ago, maybe. Yeah, she told me that you guys were organizing this, and we were at a friend's house, and all of the friends that were there were actually quite familiar or related to mental health topics somehow. And she just mentioned there was going to be a discussion panel, and she didn't know how to organize it. And I was like, I can help. Basically, just put myself out there and said, oh, I'll host for you. That should be fun. And that's how I got here.
Was it fun?
It was super fun. It was a great experience.
What do you like the most about it?
I really liked the flow of the conversation and just the different kinds of inputs that we got, and also the layers that we went through. And I like how the panel, it really worked out in this direction of saying, like, okay, there's the it was about suicide prevention, so we had like the side of the person who is suffering, and then the other side of the people who are trying to support that person. And I really like how that gave it a really nice spectrum. Yeah.
Cool. And why do you care about mental health topics?
It's a longer story, but mental health issues run in my family, and they've always been kind of put under the carpet, like shoved under the rug a bit, like just unaddressed, different generations. My mom's 72. I'm also from Argentina, where, mind you, there is actually a massive amount of therapy and therapists, and people go to therapy regularly, but deeper mental health issues are not so openly discussed yet in that society. So yeah, I started realizing this a couple of years ago, that there's a lot of mental illness in my family, and especially last year, I was diagnosed myself with mid-level depression after falling and breaking 5 ribs.
Wow.
Yes, it was not fun. Stuck in a lockdown, and yeah, that's when I kind of began really reading and informing myself more and more and more about these kinds of topics.
I would like to hear more about your story, maybe in another episode, because this episode is about my journey. So I give back the control to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think we're here to talk about my story though. So it's a complicated one anyhow. Yeah, I mean, I was really curious actually to see how you experienced it all, because for me it was a bit of a it was like a grand experiment that just resulted the best way possible. And how did you come about the idea? When did it strike you? When was for you the moment that you said, okay, you know what? The world needs to know, Berlin needs to know about this. We need to put it out there. How did that happen? And what was the first thing that you also worried about as soon as you thought it?
I started like last year, 2020, in October. I did a mental health stand-up comedy show, so sort of like a pilot. So at that point I never produced any shows or any other project, but somehow it just all happened. Everyone contribute. So it was like the beginning of my career as a producer, and I just feel this positive energy, and everyone really enjoyed it. And this year, last year also, like lots of people want to perform and lots of people want to attend, but we just didn't have enough space. And this year I was thinking, oh, instead of like one night for stand-up show, maybe I can do like a little festival program. And also I became unemployed like a while ago, and so I'm thinking, wow, now is the perfect timing, like just do a project to try it out. It just came into my mind one day when I was smoking weed, and I was like, what is it done? And it feels really surreal because I always reference back to this book called Playing Big by Tara Moore. One thing she said is that how to recognize your calling. A very common symptom is that you will think you are not the right person to pull it off. You will think you don't have the skills, you don't have the resource, and that's not the reason to not do it, because you have the resource and become that person while doing it. And this whole festival experience really taught me so. At the beginning of this project, I really barely had anything, and as soon as I told people about this project, the venue start to come in, all the resource and great people. Yeah,
So the universe was supporting you.
yeah, yes.
Yeah. When did you start? Like, when was the official starting date of the planning?
I had this idea in June, but I kind of like procrastinated. I only started working on it maybe like middle July. And you have a question, Dylan?
When did you start the podcast?
The podcast I started, I think it's end of last year. I had a burnout from work. I was really, really depressed. And then I was getting paid, not doing anything. It was a quarantine. I just needed a creative outlet. All my comedian friends, they are doing podcasts, but I just don't know what I would do. And then one day it came to my mind, I'm like, why not do something about mental health? It's something I care about so much, I'm interested in. So I started to do the podcast, and that was really, really a great decision, because earlier this year I realized I have I start to aware of that I have so many negative voice in my mind, and saying really mean shit to myself, and I project all those mean stuff onto others, and I feel everyone hates me. But by doing this project, I'm able to, like, every week I need to sit down, talk such like impersonal topic, like to connect with a person and synchronize with a person. Then I start to realize, oh, actually, not people don't think the way I think they think about me, and it kind of like helped me to get out from like my own imagination. And by doing so, I just helped lots of other stuff in life in general.
Yeah, the mind can be the worst enemy in a way, no?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's a little bit like a prison. You find yourself in it and you keep thinking like, these bars are made of steel, everything is terrible. And then at some point you realize the door's open.
Yeah.
And you can actually walk out. And that moment you realize, oh wait, it's not a prison. There's an escape route. And it happens a lot of times when we engage with others and when we connect and see that other people are actually experiencing the same thing as us.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the job that you were working that had you so burnt out?
I worked at a big tech company, analyzing their data. And last year I had some chance to work on another program, so instead of working as an analyst, I started to do like organizing and event planning, communication. And that was the first time in my life I feel, oh, I'm actually smart at working. And I thought I'm just like a person, average person trying to get by, because I'm not so smart, and in the meetings I never really understand what people are talking. And that working experience last year made me realize, actually I'm smart, I'm really good at doing stuff if I'm interested in it. So it gave me so much confidence, and eventually this project ended. I told my company, I'm like, I don't want to go back to my original work. It doesn't make sense, because now I can contribute so much. I can create value. If you make me go back to analyze the data, I just sit there waste my time. And then the company said they cannot help me, and like I can try to change, but they will like not help me, and by applying for another job in the company normally it take 3 to 6 months, and I'm like I cannot sit on that analytical job anymore. I want to kill myself. So I realized I cannot continue. I was really in a dark place for like 2 months, 2 3 months.
Yeah, I know that feeling well. So what was something about the festival now that you did that was maybe like the biggest surprise for you? Like, did you have maybe one, it could be one event, one workshop, or maybe just a person that you met, a conversation you had?
Not a single interaction. I think the biggest learning I had during the festival is that this time really make me realize that I'm a control freak. And really make me realize I don't need to be like this. For example, like before the festival, there were so many things I didn't plan out the details, and at some point I was like really. I was also going through a breakup from 3.5 years, so at some point I just really don't have energy, and lots of work I just didn't do, and but instead of like talking shit about myself, I learned to say, okay, let's see how it goes. It's a project I initiated, and as long as it happened, it's a good thing. I don't need to do everything perfect. So it's my mental health is more important than do it perfectly. So I calm myself down and to see whatever happen, I'm happy. And by having this mindset, I was so much relaxed, and I feel so much like less stress, and eventually everything worked out.
Yeah, it's kind of the saying, right? Like when you surrender to the flow of life, the flow of life occurs on its own. There's not a whole lot you really need to do. But I think it's interesting, the topic of being a control freak. I think a lot of us have this. Where do you think it actually comes from in your case? Like, where do you think it originated in?
I think it's like from the Chinese culture, also my family. Like in Chinese culture, is in general, it's more about criticize you for you are not doing good enough. Especially with my own family, I grew up really poor. My family is really underprivileged. So my mom, she's handicapped and she's a single mom. So like she always tell me there's only hope in life is to study hard to change my life. So it's never about acknowledging me. It's always about, oh, you are not good enough. Try harder, try harder, try harder. I think that's really, really ingrained in me.
And so the idea of controlling things is, if I take control of everything and I control the outcome, I can make sure it's the best possible outcome and not be criticized for it.
It's not about best possible outcome. It's just about if I don't try, like I have this internal voice keeps telling me that I'm a piece of shit. And if I don't do hard enough, like you're a piece of shit. Like you cannot do stuff. Like so then I feel really bad because all the expectation and all those harsh voice in me. But I'm working on it. I think I'm getting, at least now I know there's this voice, and I know it's wrong.
Yeah, the awareness is the first part. Yeah. I can really relate to that, actually, to growing up in a family that is quite critical, and especially I think in the mother-daughter relationship that becomes its very own nuance of difficult. I think because there's also this inter-female relationship that's occurring there where you want the mother role to be supportive of you and to like help you blossom and become a wonderful child, a wonderful adult. But then when that doesn't happen, it creates a lot of strain in us, and then we start to believe the things that are said to us. And I really experienced that as well, of like this, that turning into a sense of like wanting to control things and being like, okay, well, I have to do it perfectly. Because if I don't do it perfectly, that means I failed.
Yeah.
And if I failed, then I'm going to get criticized, and then I'm going to feel worse, and it becomes a loop. But
I think I want to add on one thing. I realized another reason why I'm such a control freak is also because the societal characteristic. Like here in Europe, we have lots of like a safe space, like a room for you to relax, and it like if you take a week off, it won't change much. But in China, like the competition is so intense, like really relax a little bit, it could mean like a whole change of your life track. So it's there's no room there to relax and to just live on lower standard, because everything it how to say multiple by each other. Like if you relax a little bit, you cannot reach to the critical level, then you are how do you say disadvantaged again and again.
yeah. Do you think it's similarly competitive in the US, for example?
I never been to US, so I don't really know.
I think it's an interesting perspective, because I'm thinking about how is this in Argentina, for example, right? Like how, because people are quite competitive, and it's also a pretty impoverished society for the most part, and you know, the rich does concentrate into about 1%, and then the middle class is quite small. It's about I'd say maybe 30%. And I think it's interesting there as well, because you witness this a lot, like with vacation time and things like this. Like the working systems oftentimes are much more similar to the US systems, of like you don't get that many holidays, you don't have that much time off in general. And so this thing of like, oh, the people that want to get out, either they want to get out of poverty, or they want to get out of Argentina in general and go to Europe or go to the US or wherever. They also have this pressure of like, I have to be the best at uni, I have to get the best job, and I need to do whatever it takes, and it does result a lot also in burnouts then afterwards. And I'm wondering if this is the same in the US, because it's also such a competitive such a competitive system.
I feel this kind of like this mindset is useful for your survival in that society, in that highly competitive society. But you need that to survive in that society. But in Europe, it's like we don't really need that. But people like me still work on that kind of mindset. Is just consuming.
It's also made me think, I was just thinking also about like family dynamics here, right? And I'm wondering how it is in China with the family dynamics, if it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think families are a little bit more close maybe and tight-knit that they are in Europe. I'm thinking the same thing goes for Argentina. Latin American culture, families are big and quite involved in each other's lives. And I'm wondering if you've experienced that as something that's actually more detrimental to your mental health than maybe in Europe, where perhaps people are a little bit more on their own sometimes, or they create their chosen family from friends, partners.
Of course, like in China, like family, it's all about family. Like older generation, when they have children, their life is about the dedication to the children, get them to the best school, and buy them an apartment, give them a good life. Then after they get married, they take care of the grandchildren. So you cannot really live your own life. And for me, this is really stressful in a way that as I said, I grew up in a single parent family. My mom is handicapped, and she really sacrificed a lot to get me education, to change my life. But now I'm in Europe, she's in China, and she is open-minded enough to say, okay, I'm fine with the loneliness, it's a sacrifice I need to pay. But on the other hand, she needs to deal with the loneliness, and but on the other hand, all the family members and the friends uh, would 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 judge it, would say this is wrong, like how could she not be around you, and why you do all those things to give her education if at the end you need to live alone, and so it's like a double battle she needs to fight. Like being alone is already bad enough, but she still needs to find others to convince them like it's the right choice.
Yeah, I feel that. I think that's very common in Latin American culture as well, like where the children that leave and like, you know, kind of go do their own life, it does become this double-sided sword. Like the parent is maybe proud of them and wants them to succeed, and at the same time there is a strong societal judgment of why are they not here? Why are they not with you? And that's, I think, at the same time, for somebody who does struggle with mental health as is, if you're the child and you're feeling that pressure from the parents, you're feeling the pressure from the society of that guilt of I've abandoned my parent or my grandparents, and who, you know, who's going to take care of them if I'm not there. That actually can make it a lot worse. Yeah. Even though the family is supposed to be the most supportive system. I think it's very difficult. I think for the parent as well to process that, right? And to come to terms with it. Yeah. Certainly. Yeah. I was wondering just now when you were talking about, well, earlier we were saying about the breakup, and I was remembering what we discussed before the podcast episode. I was thinking about the mental health evening that was here on Monday at Sorry. And it struck me as a topic this year that's been on my mind quite a bit, wondering what are the differences between, or the main things that like men struggle with in their mental health versus women. And because I wasn't here on Monday, I was actually really curious to know, on your perspective, was there something there that like really surprised you that you didn't know about men, and like how their mental health is affecting them?
I wasn't surprised by anything because by doing this podcast, I interview lots of people. Most of them are men, so I think since they talk about it, I didn't think it's surprising. I don't have a good answer for it. Dylan, as a man, what's your experience of that session?
It was I don't know. We went around the room and like we're introducing ourselves, and we all shared like quite a bit of information. Like it wasn't like I'm this person, this is my labor, this is where I come from. It was more like related to men and mental health, like this whole concept thing. So we did that, and that took quite a long time, and then like it just kind of flowed from there. And we talked about there was a lot of like naming what the issue is, which I think we all like kind of knew. So but it was so if someone didn't know anything about like how is it differentiated between like how do men experience, like how is the messaging of like that all boys receive, every boy receives this message, don't be a girl.
Yeah, don't cry.
How does that shape then their mental health? Such a fundamental denial of their humanhood, their selfness. They're just like saying I can't be vulnerable. That creates a lot of problems. So yeah, it was an intimate conversation. Like people opened up, and it just flowed really well. The question for me was about if there were any surprises.
Yeah, if there was something that like surprised you that you didn't realize like was specifically men related in mental health.
No, I've thought about this stuff a lot, and I've like have like read some books about it and taken courses like thinking about these kinds of things, and so.
No,
but I think I
don't think we are recorded.
What? It's spread on recording.
Yeah, no. Not this channel. Like I for some reason it's not working. Let me check. Yeah.
where this many men came together and wanted to talk about this. I've never been in a space like that before. And I think it was good, interesting.
So it could be something to continue on creating like men's health circles.
Yeah, we all need to be talking about all this stuff, this human experience we're having, and if like we've been socialized to fit into this role where there's going to be a lot of overlap that we don't have across gender, because you're socialized a different way, you have a different experience, and the world treats you differently, and all this stuff. So having men come together to try to name the difficulties that they experience. People brought up not being able to cry, like these really fundamental stuff. So I think, there needs to be good spaces. I think luckily it worked out. I think there was really a threat, not a threat, like a risk that like the experience could have become really difficult, because there wasn't any mental health professional in the room. It was just like almost all men talking, and one person who had a few questions listed and did a great job of facilitating it. But it's such a heavy thing to just be like, all right, men, mental health, and all of these guys like don't talk about it at all sometimes. And it was great to have like a range of people, of men there. Anyway, my mind's scattered.
I think it's actually quite interesting. I noticed for the first time the like existence of like men's groups. I knew of like women's circles, and I found that there was also men's circles a lot in the spiritual scene. So that was something I discovered last year of like, okay, there's a big need for women to connect amongst each other and to find support and find alliance and sisterhood, and reconnect with a lot of things that have to do also with their mental health, with their sexual health, all these things. But that also men's groups were slowly starting to emerge. But what I find really, I mean, it's not shocking, I guess, but it did kind of like at least catch my attention, is that there's substantially less men's groups than there are women's groups. Like maybe amongst women it's already been more widely accepted that there is a need to gather and to create like little tribes, whereas perhaps in male culture it's still, there's maybe a bit more denial still going on.
And our bonding happens often through action, like men don't like, because they don't come together and talk about their feelings, the way that they connect is like shared experience. Like we went to that game together, remember that was important, and like we just sat together and experienced something together. I mean, I didn't really have this experience, but that's my understanding of what that happens a lot. Like if I had been in sports, maybe I would have had at least one glimpse of what this is like to be in a space that's just that group culture. I forget what I was saying. How
did you perceive, like, when did your mental health first start to manifest itself as, I mean, for lack of a better word, troublesome, I guess one could say? Do you remember, like, when were moments that you started to realize, like, okay, I'm not well?
I think I wasn't happy since I could remember. Like, I always tried to find ways to be happy, but I just couldn't, like, because the life circumstance was very bad. And I had this, like, growing up, it's always like, okay, you study hard, you get a good high school, good university, find a good job, and I just followed this route. And finally, I did all those stuff, and I thought, okay, now it's time to be happy. I have a great job. I'm in Germany. I got really nice degrees. All I want is just find a guy, find a partner. And finding a partner was so hard in Berlin. And I was like, I just feel, why I cannot feel happy? And And eventually I collapsed. And at the beginning I thought, oh, it's because I couldn't find a guy. And then after I start to get the treatment and everything, I realized, oh, not finding a guy is just a symptom. It's just I believe if I can find a guy, I'll be happy. But the reality is that I'm not happy. And now looking back, my life has lots of issues I'm not aware of. I didn't know how to live like in a healthy way. I didn't know how to communicate with myself in a healthy way. Everything was out of space because growing up in China, my family was so poor, so we were like really trying to survive the whole time. We never had the luxury to really, oh, how do you feel? What's your mental health about? My mom would say, oh, how could you feel all those emotions? Life is so hard. Just I don't have time for it. And this is around 4 years ago. I was like really collapsed. I was planning suicide like for weeks. I couldn't get up.
How old were you at that point?
At that point, I was 27.
Okay.
And it was really a dark space. I really thought I couldn't make it. And after that, I start to do stuff and trying to, like before I sometimes I say I'm depressed, but it's like more like a joke or more like I want attention. But I never really realized, oh, I am depressed. It's depression. So after that, I start to realize it's depression. So I ask myself, oh, what can I do? I start to slowly learn about it and go to therapy, taking medication. And the learning curve was really slow at the beginning because I didn't know how to learn yet. But eventually, it took off. I start to know how to learn and I start to have the mental capacity to process everything. Since 4 years ago, I started my journey.
But wait, so did you self-diagnose yourself with depression then before a therapist did?
I don't know if I self-diagnosed, but probably. But there's just no way. I was just suicidal every day.
Yeah.
And I went to see a doctor. He immediately gave me antidepressant. I went to see a psychiatrist. He also immediately told me I'm depressed. So I guess just.
So was it the medication then that got you away from being suicidal? Or was there something else that clicked for you that made you change?
I think the antidepressant definitely worked. The first week I took antidepressant, I immediately feel different. I feel when I was really depressed, it's like the ability of feeling happy is gone. I just don't believe I ever be able to feel happy again. It's gone. No matter what I do, I just couldn't feel any joy. And then I start to take the antidepressant. The first week I already feel, oh, I can smile again. I start to have energy again, and that was really nice. I'm not the type of people say, oh, if you're depressed, just take the medication. But I do feel like for some really severe patients, really taking antidepressant is not a bad choice. For me, it was a big step because coming from China, we don't really believe in Western medication, and there's lots of stigma around it. Eventually, I was still battling, should I do it? Then eventually I realized, oh, what I have to lose? I'm really dying. Anything I'll try. So I'm really happy with the decision. And that's one part. But on the other hand, around the same time, I started to smoke weed. It happened a lot too.
Interesting, because weed is also along with psychedelics, it's used for treatment of depression symptoms. However, in many cases, weed is strongly advised against if you have a pathology of psychosis in your family, because you can actually go insane. So it's interesting that weed did help. I'm assuming you were smoking sativa?
I don't know, mostly hybrid.
Okay.
And also I did, also 4 years ago, around the same time, maybe a little bit after weed, like a month later, I met a friend. He is really into psychedelics, and he told me about the psychedelics. He recommended me books. I was like, oh, I want to try this thing. So I took LSD for the first time, like a very heavy dose. I put my blindfold on, and I talk with my own consciousness for like 4 hours. When I came out, I just feel so much lighter, and lots of things I could process, and I just, lots of shame went away, and that's sort of opened my mind and opened myself. And then because I was in a really open-minded state, a week later I saw a comedy show. I'm like, oh, this is nice, I want to try. And 2 weeks later I did it, and then comedy became my medication.
Oh wow! Because I was about to ask you, when did comedy come into play? Because I saw your stand-up performance on Friday at the Wall, and I was really impressed by how you managed to fuse both a very serious, profound, and quite like heart-wrenchingly sad kind of beginning of your story, of your journey, how you managed to start that, set out that way, and then guide it into a place where it was genuinely hilarious, and then still bring it back to a seriousness. And I think everybody in the room was quite still, and you could feel the attention that was on you and how focused it was. So I actually was under the impression that you'd been doing comedy for a longer time, but so it was 4 years ago then. Yeah, when you moved here. And so you just saw it, you saw someone doing stand-up and you thought, that's my jam, that's how I can process? Or
Yeah, like I don't know, I was sitting there and it was like, oh, I was laughing so hard. I was like, this is feel good. And people were talking on stage. I keep want to interact with them. And I, like normally, like if I haven't take psychedelics, I don't think I would think, oh, I can do this. Because growing up, like my mom, like everyone around me keep telling me I'm not special, I'm not talented, I'm not unique, I'm not creative. I used to think I'm the last person to be creative. And so I just don't have the confidence. But because of the psychedelics, I was like, oh, everything is possible. I was like, yeah, why not try it? And then that was the time I met my ex-partner. He still is very, very encouraging. So I told him, he's like, I was actually like kind of seeing two guys at that time. One of the guy, I told him, he's like, are you sure you are funny? And then I told Sam, yeah, do it. I'll be there. So I think to have like great people around you is also very important.
Yeah, it's pretty clear who you chose to be your partner, isn't it?
Yeah.
But okay, so what was the first time like that you went on stage? Like, did you share, like, did your mental health become automatically from the beginning part of your stand-up comedy routine, or something that could be processed through that? Or did that come later?
At the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing. So at the beginning, it's more like sexual jokes. Like the first stand-up I did, I basically invited 5 guy friends there, and I roasted them. And
those are decent friends.
Yeah. And for quite a while, it's very sexual. I think slowly I start to find my voice. After I do it, maybe after like 1 year or so, I start to can control the topic a little bit more. And the biggest leap was like since end of last year. For example, I wasn't, didn't think myself as a storyteller, but during pandemic, during the lockdown, I was so bored. I'm like, how can I use this creative energy? So I started to do like online meetups, but stand up online is really, really weird. So I was like, oh, maybe like we can do a storytelling, and it really worked. Like a story, even online, like people really feel connected, and I start to read more about it, and once you start to practice that muscle, like lots of material just come along with it.
How was it actually how did you get feedback on the online platform? Because usually as a stand-up comedian, for example, or like with storytelling in general, the fact that you have a live audience and you can also read their expressions a little bit and you can see how compelled, how connected are they to you, that's kind of, I guess, a bit of a compass. How did that work online?
I think it's different. Like a stand-up, you really need a reaction. I think story doesn't really need a reaction. It's you know, if you are telling a good story, there are standards there, and for me as a storyteller, I don't check audience reaction because I know if I am doing a good job, I don't need a reaction. I'm the conductor. They are led by my command. They will feel sad when I want them feel sad. They will feel happy when I want them feel happy. It's a different beast.
I like that. I am the commander.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So the performance that we saw of you on Friday, that was kind of like a crossover between storytelling and stand-up. Would you say?
I would say it's more like storytelling, but of course, in Berlin, in English language, there's not a big storytelling community. So now most of storytellers, they're also comedians, so there's some overlap. But I aim it to be like a storytelling show. But when comedians perform, they don't understand. Stories don't need to be funny.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
No, they're just stories. They're just meant to provoke emotion in general.
Yes.
But so, but my Olivia told me also that this was only the second time that you, or was it only the second time she saw you? Was it? How many times had you performed that exact piece?
Oh, she saw me second time. This piece probably I performed like 6-7 times.
Okay.
It was always like in the process of polishing, and I think the version you see, I think is pretty polished already. And the next step I want to do is that I have a recording. I will try to. I think it would be a very good material content for a TED talk.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to get onto that. Yeah.
Do you feel every single time you present that story, do you feel the same level of emotionality every time that you perform it? Because at least the impression that I got on the Friday was like it was very raw and it was very authentic. And I can kind of imagine that it's the kind of story that would kind of bring you to tears.
Yeah.
But I wonder how that is for you if you've done it 6-7 times. How do you experience that every time you share that story?
For me, every time when I share this story, I always feel like very heavy. Heavy in a way that I know, like especially the first half is so sad. I kind of feel like very vulnerable, and I feel like the audience are pitying me. And that's something I don't enjoy it, but I know it's necessary for the whole story. For me, every time I tell that story, I almost cry every time. But besides that, it's really about my preparation, how familiar me with the script. So, for example, on Friday, I was really well prepared, so I was really focusing on the story. But sometimes, like, I'm just like, oh, I don't remember, and I get panic. Then there's lots of like internal, like panicking. So that's more more stand out than the emotions itself. It's more about for a performer, like if I'm prepared well enough.
Well, I guess the audience also wouldn't know if you derail from the script, would they?
They wouldn't notice, but then the tension is not there. Like for example, if I mess up some information, change the order, they wouldn't get the information in the right order, then they are not surprised, or the tension is not built up properly. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Okay. I was gonna ask you actually if you think that's conducive. I would like to know about this conversation, which was probably not the only one that you had with your subconscious during your acid trip. What about that opened the doors for you? Because I think that's a very unique experience always, and in my experience with psychedelics, every time that you do engage with yourself, the level of knowledge, of self-knowledge that comes through is so hard to access in other ways. Even with spiritual practices, it can take a very long time of practicing and learning things to get to that place. So I'm very curious, because I know that this has such a big impact, and just generally also with mental health. So I'm really curious about that, actually, if that.
What's your question?
So
exactly?
So you mentioned that you had a 4-hour sit down with yourself while on LSD, and that kind of opened the doors for you and really helped you move away from a really anxious, really depressed state.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that were discussed there, that you were discussing with yourself, or things that maybe your subconscious brought to light for you that made you see things differently?
I think lots of shame. Like I was able to talk about it. When I was in Berlin the first 3 years, like I was in a very, I was very isolated, and I was very desperate because of this. Like I was dating, and now thinking back, I was taking advantage a lot, and to be able to process all those. For example, like I dated a guy for 6 months, and then he's divorced, and then later realized he's married the whole time, and his wife knows about me. He's in an open marriage without telling me, and this kind of thing. Of course, like it's not like I believed what I want to believe because I was desperate. If it's now, I'm like, yeah, no. Like you are not present. Like I meet you once per week. Well, no, it's not going to work out. So lots of shame I've been dealing during that session. But besides that, I think it's also about just being open-minded. Like I was a very narrow-minded person. I was like, okay, this is my life. This is how much I'm going to earn, what kind of job I'm going to have. I'm going to find a guy, how tall he has to be, what kind of job he has, how much he has to earn, what kind of family he has to have, what kind of education he has to have. Like, I was very narrow-minded, and that session like made me like become more relaxed and realize all these things doesn't have any meaning, and also it opened my door to beauty. Like I never like had the attention to say, oh, okay, I want to make, for example, my home like beautiful, like have a nice lighting, have a nice decoration, or go out to look at a tree. I just never had eyes for it. I was too preoccupied with all those materialistic stuff. I think that's the most important lane I had, and also it pushed me. It helped me to start my creative journey.
Yeah, and creativity is, I would say, probably the best place where you can dump a lot of your issues and a lot of the pain that you're suffering through.
Yeah.
It's the best place to put it into, and it doesn't necessarily need to be dark, the output that you make. It's just the fact that you're channeling that emotion into an output. Yeah, I think that that's a very common experience with psychedelics, is this opening and this realization of, wait, there's a lot more possibilities here than I'm seeing. Like I'm just seeing, you know, like if you're standing inside a house, I'm just seeing the one door.
Yeah.
But oh look, there's like 6 windows over there, and there's a back door, and there's all kinds of stuff. Oh look, there's even a ladder up there, and that the psychedelic experience can open that.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. But I'm also wondering this experience, right? So in Berlin as a city, because actually on my way here, I was in the U-Bahn and I was reading the little like the news scripts, and a recent study made by the Senate of Berlin, the Senate in Berlin, they questioned a whole bunch of different cities in Germany about like their level of satisfaction and happiness. Turns out Berlin is by far the most unhappy city in Germany.
Really?
Yep. by a lot, actually. Asked by like the citizens, that's how they estimate themselves as the most like very unhappy compared to other cities. So that statement for me was interesting. It did make me wonder, do I think that's true? How have I felt about this city in the course of half a life of living here? So I'm wondering also, how have you experienced it? Do you think that Berlin, or has your experience, first of all, in Berlin been related to happier years or to years of bigger struggle or bigger growth?
I think that's a really interesting question because I had my best time here, and I also had my worst time here. I came to Berlin. Before that I lived in a small German city, and I came to Berlin. I realized there are so many possibilities. When I was in south of Germany, when I turned on Tinder, like the closest person like 20 kilometers away or something like that, and people actually take trains to meet their Tinder date.
Oh wow!
And then I come to Berlin. I was like, oh, there are so many possibilities, so many guys, and they're so
close.
Yeah, so interesting, and so many people to talk to, and I really so many stuff happening, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then after 1 or 2 years, I'm like, oh, there's no one wants to settle down here. Like it's so hard, and the friendship is also very like shallow. Then I start to really resent the city. At one point, I'm like, I want to leave this city. Like it's so hard to make real friends here. It's easy to make acquaintance, but very hard to make real friends. And I really wanted to move away. And then I started my mental health journey. I started to do comedy. And at this point, I cannot imagine I live anywhere else other than Berlin. Like the comedy is amazing here. There are so many like possibilities, projects going on. There are so many creative people. I love the city, how cheap it is, and how relaxed people are. Like there are so many people I know like just quit their job to do some creative project to figure out where they want to go. Instead of like in the south, most people, they would just work at a job they don't like and buy car, buy house. So now I'm like really deeply in love with Berlin, and I cannot imagine like anywhere can offer me more than this, and I'm really living my best life now. So it's a changing relationship.
Yeah, it's incredible. I like to refer to Berlin always as my marriage partner, so husband, wife, just because it's been such a long relationship as well, half a year, my teenage years, and then I left when I was 19 and I came back when I was 25 until now. And I always say, like, every marriage, it has its ups and downs, and sometimes you want to, like, sometimes you cheat on the person, or sometimes you come back and you're like, oh, actually I love you, and then, oh, but why are you being so difficult with me, or you're triggering me, stop it. But somehow there is such a strong magnetism about this place, and I think perhaps also because a lot of the people that are struggling and a lot of the people that are unhappy, maybe they also bond together, and then they start doing projects together and things to kind of get each other out of the mud, and then it becomes like a flip situation, right? Almost like a phoenix.
Yeah, it's like our situation. Like through this project, we attracted so many people with mental health issues, and we start to collaborate. We talk with each other, and we build a small community, and it grows.
Where would you like to take this festival to? Like, if you close your eyes and you imagine, okay, the journey so far, it's been Moni, it's been you with yourself, you with your partner, you with a stand-up comedy, and now you with this festival the first time around. If you close your eyes and you envision, all right, okay, fuck, if I can dream this really, really big, really big, as big as you can imagine, what would that look like for you?
Big for me doesn't mean commercial. Like I have no intention to make it like a super successful, like tens of thousands of people attend and earn lots of money. That's not my goal. For me, this project is just a way to learn on my own and learn with others and learn together and to meet awesome people and see where the possibility goes. And for me, I want to find a way to earn money from it so it's sustainable, but I don't want to earn so many money that it become commercial. So I want to stay independent. I don't want any company or any like government officials tell me what to do, and I want it to stay like independent. Want it to stay as an art festival, not like a advertisement platform for different service providers.
Yeah.
For me, it's just a way to do something, and I know while doing it, there will be lots of creative outcome or creative project coming out from it.
Yeah, so mainly also just to get, also to create more awareness among society. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we can dream of sometimes is the thing that we actually can't dream of yet because it hasn't happened. We'll know when we're in it.
Yeah, like for example, like 1 year ago when I made this comedy show about mental health, that was the first time I produced anything. I would have no idea in 1 year I'm producing a whole festival.
Curious to see where it can go. Because I feel like this festival alone showed over the course of the last week that several of the things were like several of the shows, several of the performances, workshops were sold out and were really well attended. And I think it's not so much about quantity, it's also quality of the output. And I think the quality is really to be noted on something like mental health issues when people feel really connected, when they feel like their emotions were moved and they were touched.
Yeah.
And that's the elemental thing that you want to do with this. And I think you succeeded with bravura in that regard, because I didn't hear anybody who wasn't in some way moved, in some way compelled to want to connect, to talk to the people, who came out of their feeling at least a little bit more supported and a little bit more enlightened. So we're actually coming to the end of this podcast episode. Moni, is there anything else that you would like to share? Anything else that you would like to announce? I know you have your big show coming up December 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been all placarding the city with posters. It's Child of Wuhan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's that going to be?
In Space Medusa, 5th of December is a Sunday evening. Come to see me. The ticket is selling well, so probably you guys should get it fast before it's sold out. But if it's sold out, it's fine. I'm going to do more shows.
I'm sure you will. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else that you would like to share or close with?
Okay. I think we haven't touched on that, but I want to share it anyway. During this festival, my long-term partner broke up with me 1 month before the festival, and it's a very profound relationship. I really thought if one day we break up, I will be suicidal. I will be really depressed for very long. But magically, I really put myself together really fast and be able to see the other side, like the bright side of the breakup, and also use this pain to fuel my creative energy I made podcasts about it. I want to like talks about it, share with people. There's already positive feedback coming back. I want to share is that I realized that mental health journey is like gym. Like you every day you wake up, you do something to take care of yourself. You work on that muscle. Once in a while you get sick, but you will recover faster and faster. And I think it's all the muscle I've been building in the past 4 years made me in this mental space that even 1 month before this intense project, I got dumped. I'm still able to like being happy, connect with people, deliver the project, not only as a producer but also as a performer. So I think really like taking care of our mental health is something we should not do, and it really pays off well.
Yeah, like the phoenix, the process of dying, becoming ashes, and being reborn again. The more times you're reborn, the easier it becomes because you become more familiar with the process. Yeah. I mean, I wish we could have actually touched a little bit more on your past relationship, but I'm sure you'll be speaking about that also plenty, and maybe we can have another chat about it. But I love what you said. I think it's really valuable and really important, and I commend you for that. I commend you for being able to put this entire festival together, organize everything from scratch, become a producer, become a comedian, become absolutely everything that you are touching and saying, hey, I can try this, I want to do this, and just going for it. That's the most magical, supportive thing that you could be doing for yourself in this moment. And not everybody's powerful enough to do that. So I commend you for that, truly.
Thank you so much. And I also want to say I didn't do this festival alone. Like Dylan was happy, you were happy, and there are lots of amazing people. Like I posted it on Facebook, and there are tons of people write to me. They all want to contribute, and because we work on this project for passion, so even though I'm not very organized, everything just happened automatically because everyone cares and they connect with each other. Lots of stuff, they don't even go through me, they just talk with each other and get it done. So I think they deserve more recognition also. If you guys are interested in who did our work, you can check on our website, berlin-mental-health-festival.com. And you can see the full credit there. We have an amazing team.
Yeah, this is true. A lot of very, very talented, very thoughtful and caring people came together for this. And I'm really proud that you invited me here and that I was able to be a part of it. Dylan, you guys heard Dylan speak earlier. Dylan was taking care of filming correctly. And many, many more. You can check those all out on the website. And I'm thanking you for this episode. And to anybody out there listening, definitely stay tuned for anything more to come from Moni. I'm sure this will not be the last.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.